The Cherry Bushido is a film I just recently checked out, and I thought it had a lot of good ideas. Nonetheless, the execution fell short. So we're going to talk about that and a lot more. So let's jump into my review right now. What's up, folks, and welcome back to the channel today for another review. And today we're going to be reviewing the film The Cherry Bushido, which is coming to North American theaters March 11th. So yeah, checked out this film, and you know, simply put, it did have a lot of good ideas with the story that they were trying to tell, the potential of some of the characters, but everything just fell short. And there's one thing about this film that I just thought was completely horrible, and that was the CGI. It was bad, and then it got worse, and then it just got like, okay, how much more of this film do we have? Because I was almost done with it because the CGI was just bad. I mean, we're talking, you know, 2D RPG games, but like Windows 97, like bad. I mean, the final act is some of the most laughable CGI I have seen in a film in a long time. And at one point, I wanted to excuse it because the CGI was kind of being used in dream sequences. So I was like, okay, cool. You know, you can make that whatever you want. But then it continued to be that way throughout other different aspects of the film. And I'm just like, oh no, it's just flat out bad. So when you talk about this being an independent film, clearly in the CGI department, none of the funding was allocated to it. Like, seriously, the CGI was just bad. I can't even be nice about it. But as I said, the ideas of the film was pretty cool. Now, there's a couple of different things kind of happening here. Now, Japan is on the brink of facing a national crisis. And with that, there's a secret team being formed that is basically going to go on a secret mission in order to protect Mother Japan. And because if not, Japan will perish. So you have Suzuka, who is considered to be the chosen one, but she doesn't know it. But she's tested throughout this film, and she's going to be the one to save Japan because with her talent that she doesn't know she possesses, you know, she's been having these dreams, she's been having these visions about the destruction of Japan, and she had no clue what it meant, but it's actually giving her indication of things to come of the future. So she is seeing that Japan is eventually going to take a missile attack and be completely destroyed. And it kind of makes sense because Japan is also having, you know, issues with neighboring countries, who one of the countries is doing missiles testing. And tell me if you've heard this before, right? But within the neighboring company, they can't quite execute the success of their missile launches, but in what they are deeming could be a failed attempt or could be a actual tactical move, you know, the vision is saying that a missile is going to eventually hit Japan. So that's one part of it. But like, you know, Suzuka, she is just a member of 4, where 3 other people all have a certain set of skills that are being trained to go on this secret mission, as I said. And the secret mission has them training to not only take themselves to the spiritual world, just doing some astral traveling and whatnot, but ultimately possessing the skill to go fight the great demon. And the great demon, Hades, by the way, is truly once able to generate enough power, is going to be destruction of Japan. So Japan's being hit from all different angles here, both in the real world with a missile, which the connection between that and Hades, you know, is ultimately going to be the demise of Japan. So you got the politicians fighting war during the day, and you got Suzuka and her crew fighting them in the astral spiritual dimension world, whatever you want it to be. Now, the film is kind of built like a Japanese RPG, because you're getting a lot of dialogue, minimum action, and tons of training before you ultimately are prepared enough to go out and fight. And you're seeing, and the film's 2 hours, and it's a lot of just talking and like, you're not ready, you're not ready. And then when you're hitting the real world, you're kind of hearing the politicians, you know, kind of trying to get a feel for how severe these warnings may be, and this really the state of the country, you know, because things are happening. You're getting actually minor, small attacks on soil, but ultimately something big is to come, and they're just trying to prepare for it. But as I said, the special effects, I mean, at one point they were giving me like early Star Wars effects, and I mean like the first trilogy. And I was like, okay, I guess I can deal with that. But then, as I said, it got bad, and then it got worse, and then it was just unbearable. Like, really, it was just really unbearable. I wish they could have just did without the special effects, but they couldn't have, because the final act really was dependent on the special effects. The demon makeup and reveal was very underwhelming, but the demon then using CGI was just, come on now. And then we got a moment where we got to see the missile that's eventually coming, and it hits orbit, and it looked bad. And then there's this golden dragon that's just bad. Like, so ultimately, what was I looking forward? What was I looking forward to in this film? Well, obviously, the Way of the Samurai. I wanted to see some action. And when it came down to that action, I thought that like the choreography was kind of lackluster, but I'm fine with that, because I understand that everybody's being trained, and no one was quite ready. So like, you know, I didn't feel very impacted by the action and the choreography of the action, because I felt like it should have been kind of amateur, because they were still learning. I mean, it wouldn't make sense if this whole movie they spent saying they wasn't ready, and then eventually when they get into a fight, they just start washing everybody. So, you know, in regards to the choreography, I think it did its job and told the story it wanted to tell. But overall, the action was just kind of lackluster, and like they really didn't deliver a lot of it in it. But you know, when with a samurai, you know, you're looking to see the blade swing and so on. But like, you really didn't get much of that. The soundtrack was really good, that for sure. And I thought that really was the catalyst to even making those fight scenes even memorable. Like the soundtrack, and again, built like a classic Japanese RPG. When they got into the fights, then the soundtrack hits, and then you're like, hey, I like this, you know. So that for sure was a highlight of this film. But I think the other easiest way to kind of like depict to you all what this film was, it felt like a Disney movie, a live action Disney adaptation, but with a way lower budget. Like it wanted to be family friendly. It wanted to have that feel good moment. And there was a lot of good messages, especially in terms of the Japanese culture. And you know, basically living by the right spirit. There's a lot of that in there. So you definitely, you know, you grasp that information. But overall, I just felt like the execution of all these things, it really didn't bundle up together. Like the ending of the film was kind of like, whew, I'm glad it's over, instead of like that's a good resolve. Like it had no business being as long as it did. Some aspects of this film was completely drawn out. I never really totally connected with the characters, but I still don't think I would go as far as saying like this movie's so bad, like I hated it. It's still, I just think that the execution of the idea just wasn't good. And I think like if redone, or you know, even a sequel, I think there's no way you can go back. You only could go forward at this point, and that's kind of where I'm feeling with this. So but you know, as far as our lead characters here, I mean, they're intriguing. The young lady who plays Suzuka, I thought she was good in the role that she was given. Again, she went from a girl who was just living a normal life, who was just trying to be the advocate for her country, to, oh, by the way, you're the chosen one. You actually got to go to, you know, this whole spirit world and fight this demon, and you didn't even know you had these skills, and then you got that, and then you got the politicians saying like, wait, you're having visions? Oh, we need to know about those too. And then learning more about the family, and everybody else is learning more about the country. There's a lot of things that went on for these characters in such a short time. But even with that, for the viewers, it's so many things that are kind of happening, you kind of get lost in the shuffle. So But hey, you know, if this sounds like something you want to check out, totally do so. The Cherry Bushido again will be available in theaters March 11th. You know, I can't stress enough. You know, it highlights the Japanese culture and specifically talk about Japan, a nation that is nurtured in miraculous traditions and cultures throughout its long history, and they definitely go through different generations of explaining all of that. And as I said, you know, when it comes down to the different themes of horror, faith, justice, love, and devotion for the country, you know, these are like the catalysts in order to protect it. And that's where we kind of see embodied in these characters for the fight. And that sounds super compelling, but the execution just wasn't there. That's truly what the issue was. But hey, check it out. Jump in the comments, let me know when you do. And as always, stay tuned for more reviews very soon.